morning, miss. My name is Paula, and today I'm going to present you, and I'm going to talk about you the drugs. Let's start. First, here we have the index that we have introduction, index, what is drug addiction, why the teenagers use drugs, consequence, health effects, preventions, and the last one is thanks. First, what is drug addiction? Drug addiction is a chronic brain disease. It causes a person to take drugs repeatedly despite the harm in others. Repeat drug use can change the brain and lead to addiction. And the brain change from addiction can be long-lasting, which is why drug addiction is considered a recurring disease. This means that people in recovery are at risk of 30, using drugs again even after years of not taking them. Why do teenagers use drugs? Well, there are several factors and can contribute to drug use and abuse among teens. First time use often occurs in social media settings where substances are readily available, such as alcohol and cigarettes. Continue use may be due to insecurities or a desire for social acceptance. Teens can feel indestructible and not consider the consequence of their actions, leading them to take dangerous risks with drugs. Now, common risk factors for teen drug abuse include family history of substance abuse, a mental or behavioral condition such as depressive anxiety or attention deficit. And the other one is hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, impulsive or risk behavior, history of traumatic events such as being in car accident or being abused, low self-esteem or feelings of social rejection. The other one is consequence of consuming drugs. First, drug addiction. Teenagers who abuse drugs are at higher risk of using drugs later in life. Yeah, if you start consuming drugs at 14 years, maybe in another 20 years when you have 34 years, you're going to you're going to consume drugs again. So maybe you can become an drug addiction, or I don't know how to say it. A lack of criteria. Drug use in adolescence is associated with a lack of judgment in social and personal interactions. Sexual activity. Drug is associated with high-risk sexual activity, unsafe sex, and unintended pregnancy. Mental health disorders. Drug use can complicate or increase the risk of mental health disorders, such as depression and anxiety. There are many mental health disorders, I think. Driving while intoxicated. Yeah, driving when you are intoxicated, when you are with the effects of the drugs. Driving under the influence of any drug can impair and drive motor skills, endangering the passengers and others on the road. You have to you need to be careful. And the other one, and the last one, change in school performance. I think that's so real. That's the truth, I think. Substance use can result in decreased academic performance, and it's that a big problem, I think. And not just in the school, in the university, in your work. Yeah, they have many effects. Health effects for consuming drugs. Well, we start with the cocaine. Cocaine. Well, yeah. A risk of heart attack, strokes, and seizures. The other one is ecstasy. Risk of liver failure and heart failure. Inhalants. Risk of damage to the heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys after prolonged use. Marijuana. Risks of impaired memory, learning, problem solving, and concentration. Risks of psychosis, such as schizophrenia, hallucinations, or paranoia, later in life associated with early and frequent use. And methamphetamine, risks of psychotic behavior after long-term or high-dose use. Opioids, risks of respiratory distress or death from overdose. And the last one is electronic cigarettes that are more called vaporizers. I think that's the same thing of a cigarette. They have the same consequence, yeah. And exposure to harmful substances are similar to the exposure that occurs when smoking cigarettes. Risks of nicotine dependence, yeah, you maybe have to occur everywhere, every time for nicotine, and that is a big problem. I think the boyfriend of my cousin um, has, and he used a lot of vaporizers, and I think that's not too good for him health. I think that's not good, but it's him life, so I can do. It's his life, and I can't do anything for him. Um, and the last one is probation strategies. The first one is know your teenager activities. I think that's really important for the parents. You have to pay attention to where your teenager is, find out which adults supervise activities your teen is interested, and I encourage him to participate in them. You have to pay attention where your teenager, where your son goes, where your son, um, what is the thing that your son doing in the day and things like that. The other one is set rules and consequences. I think it's really important to set rules in your home, such as leaving drug and party, and not riding in a car with a driver who has been using drugs, and things like that. Yeah, and they don't, if your son, the teenager, breaks the rules, you have to enforce a consequence. If you don't put a consequence, then the teenager is going to do it again. And yeah. The other one is get to know your teenager friends. If your teen's friends use drugs, your teen may feel pressure to experiment as well. So you have to put attention. What are the friends of your son? What are the friends of your teenager? And because they would like to prove that they would like to be like your friends and things like that. Keep and record of your prescription drugs. Take an inventory of all prescriptions and over-the-counter medications in your home. The other one is provide sports. I think this is another one that it's very important. Is praise and encourage him when your team is successful. A strong bond between you and your team can help prevent him from using drugs, and I think that's really true. And the last one is set a good example. If you consume alcohol, do so in moderation. Use prescription medication as directed. And the other one is don't use illegal drugs. I think if you are consuming illegal drugs, your teenager, your son is going to do it because they're going to say, well, my mother, my dad do, why I can't do it that? Yeah, I think that's very important. And yeah, thank you. Thanks for your attention. And now I'm going to talk you a little bit about what I think about this problematic, but in Spanish. Bueno, profe, yo pienso que es una problemática muy grande, ¿sabes? Porque, como te dije, principalmente el consumir drogas viene desde casa o desde amigos o desde problemas. Por eso es importante cuando uno vea reacciones raras en los adolescentes, en los hijos, es mejor recurrir a hablar con ellos para saber qué tipo de cosas están haciendo. Como lo dije, también estar pendiente de las cosas que hacen, estar pendiente de sus amistades. Bueno, también escuchando el tema de mi compañero Kevin, él estaba justificando mucho a su tío, creo que era, a su familiar, bueno, y entonces yo opino que, bueno, listo, si él lo hace, pues que lo haga porque cree que es un beneficio para él o cree que es una forma de, como lo dijo él, cree que es una forma de calmar su ansiedad, su estrés. No, realmente no es así. Siento que, como te dije, hay muchas drogas que causan ansiedad, estrés, esquizofrenia y cosas así, ¿sabes? Entonces pienso que tenemos que ser precavidas y eso no solamente va en los adultos, sino también en nosotros, que como adolescentes ya tenemos la suficiente edad, diría yo, para saber qué es bueno y qué es malo para nosotros, para saber con quién debemos y con quién no debemos juntarnos. No estoy prejuzgando a nadie, uno no puede juzgar a nadie por su apariencia o por lo que haga, pero tenemos que saber qué hacemos y con quién nos juntamos para ver si esa persona nos beneficia o realmente no nos beneficia. No nos sirve de nada tener amigo a alguien quien consume drogas, que lo único que nos va a dar como ejemplo, quizás, no estoy segura, es el consumo de drogas. Entonces tenemos que, eso también va en parte de nosotros como adolescentes. Muchas gracias.